Hello everybody, ToadKnight here, and I just spent 20 hours in Dragon Quest I HD Remastered. Man, did I have a great time. I love classic JRPGs, and I love these classic JRPG remasters that they're going for. In this video, I am going to take you on my journey through the whole game with an hour-to-hour recap of everything I did in the game. And what followed in this journey was a bunch of nostalgia, some brutal grinding moments. Sometimes I put on cursed armor, and me slaying a bunch of dragons, and eventually slaying the Dragonlord himself. The game begins, and we are asleep, and a mysterious woman talks to us in our sleep and tells us we are the descendant of Erdrick, the main character from Dragon Quest III, and it's our duty to defeat the Dragonlord. After naming my hero ToadKnight, classic, on brand, gotta do it, I wake up from this dream, and I find a group of guards fighting off a bunch of monsters. I go and save them, and they take me back to the main capital of this game, Tangil Castle. I tell the king I'm a descendant of Erdrick, and he tells me to go and inspect Erdrick's Hollow, and then go to the Shrine of Rain to discover more about my past, my ancestry. In Erdrick's Hollow, it's more like a tutorial kind of dungeon. Yeah, I get it over with pretty quickly. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, kind of just teaching me mechanics. At the end of this cave, there is a giant gravestone, and engraved on the gravestone is a message from Erdrick himself, saying he entrusted 3 sacred treasures to people around the world, and we need these 3 sacred treasures to reach the Dragonlord's castle. But after that, I really begin to explore the whole world and gain levels and, just really sink into the classic turn-based combats. And along the way, I discover, in the overworld, as I'm going towards the Shrine of Rain, the Wayfarer's Chapel, and this place called the Forgotten Ruins, where we meet a character named Gwaelin. He was like a bard who's connected to Erdrick's legacy. Honestly, he's not really a big part of the story, but he does play a part in an important side quest later on. And as I'm exploring the world, I get to this bridge. At this bridge, we find a wounded soldier, and he informs us that Princess Gwaelin has been kidnapped during an ambush. Now, Princess Gwaelin is the princess of this kingdom, and we kind of know she's been missing because we get some dialogue of that earlier on in the game. Luckily, the king's royal guard are here to hear this explanation as well, so they set off to the princess's last location, and I'm able to head to the Shrine of Rain. That's not my business. Now, after I get to the Shrine of Rain, there's the Sage of Rain who's there, and he kind of tells us about our past, but he doesn't quite believe we're good enough to be the hero. So he's like, yes, I have the Shrine of Rain, which is one of the 3 treasures, sacred treasures that you need to reach the Dragonlord's castle, but I'm not ready. You need to prove yourself before me. Nothing I can do there. After that, I decide to go for one of the other 3 sacred treasures. I return back to Tangil Castle, where the king gives us a new mission to find 3 keys, where you need these 3 keys to do a ton of fetch quests. Now, honestly, I could explain why we're getting these 3 keys, and it's basically we need these 3 keys to get this other item, to get this other item, to get this other item, to eventually get the 3 sacred treasures that we need to make the bridge to the Demon Lord's castle. But honestly, this is where kind of the fluff comes in of the remake. Is they add a lot to the game where we're kind of just doing different tasks to elongate the game and kind of make it more of a full game, which is fine in a certain sense because the original game I think is really, really short and not a whole lot going on there. So they needed to add something to it, and the way they did that was adding a ton of fluff, a ton of fetch quests. So the first big fetch quest we get is finding these 3 keys. The first key is the Thief's Key, and it's located in Galenholm. And I discover at Galenholm that the merchant who's supposed to have the Thief's Key was robbed by good old Robin Hood. Now, if you played Dragon Quest III HD Remaster, you may remember Robin Hood from there. This Robin Hood in this game is a descendant of that same Robin Hood, and I love that Robin Hood. We tracked him down to his bandit base at Craggy Cave. And honestly, this was the first boss fight in the game. I went into it thinking I was gonna just annihilate because I thought this was kind of an older game, and I played through Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I didn't really have any trouble. But this, way different. I got annihilated. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, they just beat me down. It is very hard to play as 1 character versus 4 characters. So it was Robin Hood and his little goons, and they just gave me a beatdown. So I took the next 20 minutes, kind of grinded up, and kind of learned my skills a little bit more. There's a few skills in the game that it gives you that are extremely useful against a group of enemies, and that's Dodgy Dance, which makes you dodge a lot of attacks, like gives you a very high % to dodge enemy attacks. And then one called Cop Out, where you can reflect enemy attacks onto other enemies, which is really nice. Both are really good to deal with a large group of enemies. Now, I didn't know this at the beginning of the game, so I kind of grinded up until I got strong enough to just straight up beat Robin Hood and his goons, which didn't take me that long, only like 20 minutes. I got pretty lucky. But after I beat Robin Hood, turns out he's not that bad of a guy. You know, we know Robin Hood, they're sweetheart at the bottom. Same as the other Robin Hood, they got a heart of gold. So we decided to spare him. And in Craggy Cave, one of his goons was missing deeper in the cave. We decided to go rescue that guy. He said if we rescued that guy, he'd just give us the key. So we decided to go rescue that guy. He was deep in the cave. And deeper in the cave, I fought another boss. But he was actually pretty easy. I kind of just wiped the floor with him. It's a one-on-one fight. And please, I already leveled up before that, so I just annihilated him. Now, after we save his little goon, there's 2 fairies frightened at the bottom of the cave. And they're on a mission for someone they call Lady Rubus. Now, we don't know who that is yet, but it seems like they're on an important mission. They're looking for a dwarf. It was kind of very vague. They didn't want to talk to me because I was a human, so they gave me very vague descriptions. But after they'd run away, they gave me a vague description. They tell me about this dwarf they're looking for. There's 2 treasure chests left behind in this cave. And in the treasure chests were a choker and a zombie male. And I foolishly equipped them right away. I did not read the description. In the description of these items, they were cursed items. And they gave me a curse where I couldn't unequip them. And when I was wearing the zombie male, every time I stepped, I lost health. And I couldn't just teleport out of the dungeon. I had to walk back through the dungeon with random encounters on while losing health from the zombie male. And the choker I was wearing would sometimes make me forced to defend. So I couldn't even attack a lot of the times when attacking these monsters. It was hell, and it took me quite a while to get back out. But when I finally did, I got the key from Robin Hood, and I teleported back to a church and removed the curses. But wow, lesson learned. I love Dragon Quest for that. Those are the cool cursed gear in the game, which I always avoid, is just a little je ne sais quoi for their RPG prowess. Now, my next big task was collect the next key, the magic key. And the only hint I had of this was to head over to a town called Rimoldar. And on my way to Rimoldar, I found the King's Guard who had gone to rescue the princess, and they were just overwhelmed and beaten. And luckily, I saved them from a pack of monsters, and they were able to make their way back to Rimoldar, where I was headed as well. Back at Rimoldar, one of the old men in the King's Guard collapses from sickness, and the priest of the town says there's no way he can heal him, but maybe a wizard knows of a magic spell that can heal him. In another part of town, there's a warlock. And the warlock mentions working on the new key, the magic key, that one that I'm looking for. He was working on it with a dwarf who has since vanished. The warlock says he can make a cure for the old man if I could find the dwarf that was working with him to make the key. And so I go to this cave, this dwarven cave south of Rimoldar, and this is the first big dungeon in the game, the dwarven cave. And honestly, the monsters were powerful here. I had to spend a lot of time grinding, probably about another 30 to 40 minutes outside the dwarven cave just grinding to be able to be confident enough to fight these monsters. But after that, I did make my way through this massive cave, and it actually took me quite a while. But eventually, I made it to the bottom of the cave where the dwarves lived. And in one of the back rooms was a sick dwarf. The same dwarf the warlock was looking for. He had the same sickness as the old man in town. And he told me that the fairies might have a cure. And this is where the story comes full circle. Those fairies I met at the Craggy Caverns were actually looking for this dwarf to help him get a cure for his sickness so he can get back and make the magic key. It's all coming together. So my next task was going to the fairy village. And honestly, I lost my footage from making my travels to the fairy village. But to my best recollection, we get to the fairy village and they tell us what we know we're going to be told again, another fetch quest. To make the cure, to save the dwarf and the man in Rimoldar, we're going to need to find 2 ingredients, 2 seeds. And so I went out and found those 2 seeds. And when I got back to the very village to give them the seeds, they were under attack by a robot and some skeletons. Now I tried to fight these guys and I just got destroyed. But luckily, around an area I found to the south, I found one of the greatest Dragon Quest monsters you could ever find. Some metal slimes. So I was feeling weak. I was feeling very weak. All the enemies were destroying me at this point in the game. And so I decided to put on an episode of Supernatural and grind metal slimes for that full episode. Now, if you ever grinded metal slimes in a Dragon Quest game, you know they're very hard to kill. They only have 4 health, but you only do 1 damage per hit, and you miss most of the time. And they run away very often. So it takes a long time to grind them, but once you hit them, once you kill one, it gives you 1,000 experience per metal slime at this point in the game. And just for reference, every other enemy was giving me like 90 experience points. So they were a jackpot to hit. So I basically just sat here, just ran around and killed metal slimes for a full hour. And I went from level like 18, 19 to level 28, 29. So it was like a whole 10 levels. I went back to this fairy village and I fought this robot and skeletons and I just shellacked them. I took them to Pound Town. I annihilated them and it felt good. It felt good to be strong. And I gave the fairies the ingredients and they created the synapse syrup. I used that syrup to heal both the dwarf and the knight, and the dwarf runs away to the warlock and they complete the magic key. After I receive the magic key, I get a vision of Gwaelin, the princess, and she tells me she's trapped in the Quagmire Cave, which is a cave I've already been to before. That's where I initially found the knights from the King's Guard. I go back to the Quagmire Cave, and now with the magic key in hand, I can use it to open the door to access a deeper level. That's where I find the princess, Gwaelin, or so I thought. But my whole conversation with Gwaelin in the cave was an illusion. Luckily, before I can spill any important information, Gwaelin, the real princess, breaks this illusion. And when the illusion breaks, what's in front of me is a giant, massive green dragon. And honestly, I was over leveled at this point, but I walked into this boss fight with no MP, so I couldn't heal. And so I lost my first time fighting this dragon. I just was not prepared. So I reloaded my save and just ate a bunch of MP restoring things, healed up, went back into the cutscene, fought the dragon again, and just absolutely dominated him. Dragon Slash is incredible here. After beating the dragon, I whisk Gwaelin up in my arms and carry her back to Tangiel Castle. Now, I want to point out, if you are trying to go for 100% achievements of this game, go to an inn with Gwaelin first. Do not go straight to the castle. Go to an inn, because you get an achievement for that. I missed this achievement, and now I have to go back through the game on easy mode just to get to this point again so I can go to the inn with Gwaelin. Oh, I'm so mad at myself for missing this. But yes, you take Gwaelin back, princess style, you carry her back to Tangiel Castle, and you are the hero. You're officially crowned and recognized as the hero of the land because you saved the princess. And there's a huge banquet and a huge celebration, and there's a romantic balcony scene with you and Gwaelin. And yes, it seems like we get laid. I'm gonna take it as we got laid for a job well done. But there's no time to rest, because now we have to find 5 sigils to summon someone named Rubus. During the game, Rubus has been giving us messages through our mind. She is the one who initially at the start of the game told us we were the descendant of Erdrick, or so I think. There's 2 fairies talking to us in our head. One is the leader of the fairies and one is Rubus. It gets a little confusing, to be honest with you, but I think she was the one that's always talking to us in our head. And after meeting the fairies to get the potion, they told us we need to summon Rubus by getting 5 different sigils. So I returned to the fairy village and give him some special items I found around the world. And they use these items to forge sigils. The first sigil is the soul sigil, and it lets me use powerful ultimate moves at low HP, which, is just the bee's knees. Because I needed something to feel powerful. I felt like even though I gained 10 levels, I still felt like the enemies were catching up to me quickly. But this move, this sigil unlocks the ability to change any of my abilities into really strong versions of themselves if I hold square, which is so useful because they're gonna be the things that get me through the end of the game. Now, the first place I wanted to explore is the Weeping Willows, a foggy forest maze. While I'm searching through this maze, it's kind of like the classic where you run into a room and you get teleported back to the original room. Everyone's done it before if you're a gamer, but it's a foggy forest. And after like 6 different screens of running over the same thing over and over again, I finally get the prompt to use Gwaelin's necklace that she gave me. The princess gave me a necklace while we were romancing her. And I use that necklace to dispel the fog. And after I do that, in front of me are 3 mist spirits who I easily dispatched with 1 ultimate gust slash, because I'm that strong. And after defeating these mist spirits, the Dream Whisper Fairy appears and reveals that not only will I need all 5 sigils to summon Rubus, but I also need the Fairy Flute and the Lyre of Ire to summon Rubus. Which I'm like, fine, just give me more stuff to do, I get it. Next up, I go to look at my map, and the next place I need to go is a town called Canthalon. Before I can enter the town, I'm blocked by our golem. Now, this golem annihilated me the first time, so much so that I thought I was at least a little bit strong with my ultimate moves and stuff, but this golem just like 2-hit me and I was dead. It did a lot of damage. And so it was at this point where I was like, okay, I don't know how to get past this golem. So I consulted a guide. I went to game 8. I knew I was going to go there anyway because I wanted to collect all the mini medals, and I was not going to do that without a guide because that seems insane. And what game 8 told me is before the fight this golem, you need the Fairy Flute because the Fairy Flute can put him to sleep. And that's in a city called Cole, which is on the other side of the map. So I teleported up to the north side of the map, walked around, found some mini medals, went back to some towns, and then went to Cole to get the Fairy Flute. Grabbed the Fairy Flute, went back to Catelyn and defeated the golem. And it felt good. I just put him to sleep every 2 seconds, and he was easily, I mean, he couldn't even fight back. Luckily, the fairy flute didn't cost any mana. I could use it over and over again, so that boss was just cheese to high hell. After defeating him, I learned that Catelyn had been oppressed by a demon named Spiketail, who had actually kidnapped the town's protector. Spiketail took the protector to the Weeping Isles, which is great for us because I needed to go there anyway, and I might as well save the protector along my way. But the bridge to the Weeping Isles was broken, so it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I did not see this coming. I just teleported over to the dwarves' land, asked them to fix the bridge, and they literally just walked out and did it in like 2 different screens, less than a minute. So, I mean, they're dwarves doing dwarf stuff. Now, I was able to cross this bridge and go to the Weeping Isles. Again, the enemies were much stronger here in the Weeping Isles, which I already felt again like I was falling behind. So I spent a little bit more time in this dungeon in the Weeping Isles, just getting stronger and fighting more monsters, until I eventually reached Spiketail's cave, where I witnessed him trick Catelyn's protector into revealing where the ultimate key was located, and then murder him right in front of my face. Just before Spiketail was about to murder the protector's son, I jumped in to save him. After that, I beat up all of Spiketail's minions, and he escaped to go find the ultimate key before I could get to him. Unfortunately, the protector of Catelyn died, and he wasn't able to survive his wounds, and we held a funeral, which was a sad day. Meanwhile, while this funeral was happening, the Dark Lord finally was able to take control of the Sphere of Light. He had been trying this whole time, but his power wasn't strong enough. He now finally had the power to use the Sphere of Light, and once that happened, more darkness spread across the world, and monsters started appearing in cities and attacking everybody. First things first, I had to go rescue the fairies. They were under attack by some undead dragons, which I easily defeated. Next, I had to hunt down Spiketail in Cole. And honestly, my first attempt at fighting this guy, I lost. He's like the 3rd strongest guy in the game. So I went back to the Weeping Isle. And right outside the Weeping Isle are gold golems. I grinded a few of those until I had more gold than I even needed. I grinded way too much gold. And I got a few levels along the way because there are also metal slimes there. But with that gold, I went back and bought all the dragon armor, all the dragon items, everything that was super effective against a dragon, because Spiketail was a dragon. And after getting all those items and weapons, I was super resistant to all his attacks, and I just annihilated him, thus claiming the ultimate key. Now, with the ultimate key, I took some time and backtracked through the whole game. I backtracked to new areas, I got all the mini medals, I went to game 8, and I really looked at everything I missed. I basically backtracked everywhere I went and looked at game 8 and got every item I could find. And I also did all the side quests in the game. There are like 3 different side quests that eventually led to me getting most of the best armor in the game, Erdrick's armor, which made me feel so powerful. I had the full set of Erdrick's gear except for his sword. Now, I will want to point out, when I got that Erdrick's armor, I fought the 2nd strongest boss in the game, who didn't even have a name. He was just some armor, but he was so strong. But when you beat him and got Erdrick's armor, it felt so rewarding. My defense was so high from getting all of Erdrick's gear, most of it at this point. After that, I went to Galen's grave, where I retrieved the Lyre of Ire. After getting all Erdrick's gear and getting the Lyre of Ire, and I already had the fairy flute, and I basically had every single item that I needed to summon Rubus. The only thing I needed to do was go to the Shrine of Rain. At the top of the Shrine of Rain is where I could summon Rubus. Now, when I got back to the Shrine of Rain, the Sage of Rain was actually missing. I found him on the top of the shrine, the very tippity top, battling a gargoyle who wanted to steal the Staff of Rain. Very important. But I step in before the gargoyle could steal the staff, and I defeated him. Pretty easy. He used a lot of physical damage, but once you use Dodgy Dance, you should be able to beat him pretty quickly. Since Dodgy Dance, you dodge like 50% of all his attacks. If you're lucky, 50%. Let's be more realistic. You're going to dodge 33%, and you're going to heal most of the time, but you can get in a few licks every now and again. After that, it was time to summon Rubus. I used all 5 sigils, the fairy flute, and the Lyre of Ire, and Rubus came down from the sky, finally, in her little angelic form. Now, I must be misremembering. I do remember something about Rubus in Dragon Quest III. It's been like a year since I played Dragon Quest III, so I don't remember all the small details, but I think she was in love with Erdrick, if I remember. I might be misremembering that. Don't quote me. But Rubus comes down, and she basically gives us the recipe to make the bridge to go defeat the Dragonlord, which is gather 3 items, the Staff of Rain, the Sunstone, and with those we can make the rainbow drop. And with the rainbow drop, we can finally build the bridge to the Dragonlord's castle. So again, she comes down just to give us another fetch quests, and then she disappears into the earth where she kind of heals the lands so the monsters aren't attacking like the cities anymore. Now after that, it was time to get ready for the final battle. So I made sure to get all the achievements in the game and everything ready to beat the game with all the achievements unlocked. I was just missing that one stupid achievement where you have to take the princess to the inn, but ignoring that, I'll get that later. I got all the stuff, all the mini medals, all the things I could get. I went and fought a demon at this shrine and got the Mark of Erdrick, which is the final accessory to almost complete the whole Erdrick set. After getting the Mark of Erdrick, I went back to Tangiel Castle, and as I was locking all the stuff, I went down into the basement where I found the Sage of the Sun, who was living down there like a homeless man. I don't know what he was doing down there, but he was just living his life underneath the castle. He gave me the Sunstone, and with the Staff of Rain and the Sunstone in hand, I was able to go to the Sage of Rainbow, combine those items, and finally complete the final fetch quest in the game. The one we heard about at the beginning, the 3 sacred items combining and becoming the rainbow drop. And finally, the fetch quests were done. And now it was time to go defeat the Dragonlord himself. I used the rainbow drop to form the bridge and enter the Dragonlord's castle. It was a long enemy packed dungeon. Like, that thing took me a long time. I was in there for, my last recording of the game was just the Dragonlord's castle and the boss, and it was a 2-hour recording. So just the dungeon and the boss took me 2 hours. And honestly, the boss actually took me quite a long time. You'll see, I made a little mistake here. But luckily in the Dragonlord's castle are liquid slimes. Now these liquid slimes really helped me out because I got so lucky. I defeated like 8 or 9 of them before I got to the main boss, which gave me just like 5 or 6 extra levels during my exploration of the final dungeon in the game, which helped me so much. Now, in the dungeon, I found the last mini medals and Erdrick's sword, made it to the bottom of the dungeon where the boss is, and right before the boss, you can take a teleporter back. I teleported back, turned in all my medals, got the achievement, got an achievement for equipping all Erdrick's items, and I was all ready to go for the final fight. There's just one more achievement I needed. When you walk into this final fight, the Dragonlord asks you if you want to rule with him and take half of the land to yourself. And to get the achievement, you need to say yes. Now, after you say yes, you give up your sword to the Dragonlord, and you kneel before him and you take half the land. Now, it's like a joke ending. You do this, and then like the darkness spreads out, but then you wake up at the inn, and it acts like it was a bad dream. Like, oh no, that was a crazy dream how the hero turned evil for a second. And you get the achievement. It's like a fun little thing they have in there. But when you give Erdrick's sword to the Demon Lord, it unequips the sword. And so I did not know this. I went back into the fight with the Demon Lord, and I did the first phase with no weapon. Not a weapon. I didn't even notice. I thought he was really hard, and I was like, oh my gosh, this final boss is incredibly hard. I'm doing no damage. And I beat the first phase. Now I was looking back at my recording. The first phase and the second phase took me like an hour, 20 minutes. It took me a long time because I had no weapon. I beat the first phase with no weapon. I didn't even notice because I was using magic most of the time. But then when the second phase came along, I was doing only 60 damage to this boss. I was like, wow, the defense is crazy. Then I realized in my character model, there was no weapon in my hand because I unequipped it to get the achievement for the first bad ending. I was like, no. So I looked at my inventory and I couldn't go out of I was still in the boss fight, so I couldn't like get my full inventory. The only weapon I had left was an axe, the helm splitter, or whatever axe that was I had at the end. It wasn't super bad, but it wasn't really good. Because it wasn't the best weapon in the game, I wasn't doing the most damage I possibly could. So my damage output was actually pretty low for this fight. And it just took me forever. It took me so much healing and just stalling. Honestly, the strongest move I was using is actually Cop Out. Because this boss displays when it's going to use 2 really strong attacks in a row. And Cop Out is a reflective move where it's basically like it reflects the enemy's attack back onto them. And I would use that move and I'd do 160 damage. And that was probably the most damage I did in that fight. And that's kind of how that fight went. Now, if I look back at the recording, the first phase took 15 minutes to beat because I damaged low. Second phase of that fight, 43 minutes it took me. But man, I earned that win. And with that, I completed Dragon Quest 1 HD Remaster. And peace return to the kingdom. I got all the achievements, but that one, which I will go back and get by just putting the game on easy and getting to the princess part where I can carry her to the inn. And at the very end, the end was really cool. Peace returns to the land. The king offers you the throne, but I declined because we wanted to forge our own legacy in a land we built ourselves. So we leave the kingdom to go have our own journey, kind of like how number 3 ended. But as we're leaving, Gwaelin, the princess, comes running in and she confesses her love to us, and we accept her, and she joins us on our journey to new lands. And after the credits, a mysterious voice appears, and it's one of the demon lords, looks like trusted confidants or lackeys, and they're like, I swear to reshape this world. And I assume that's going to be the main protagonist for Dragon Quest II, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Thank you guys for watching. This is my full journey through Dragon Quest I HD Remaster. I had a great time. It was a great game. Simple, fun JRPG. I would highly recommend.